on YouTube and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It is Kevin Forte coming to you live from Long Island, and today we are going to be taking a look at the Long Island team in the NHL, the New York Islanders. So the New York Islanders have had kind of an interesting start to the season. It's a Jekyll and Hyde situation, and they're one of the teams still that is hard to evaluate because they'll beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, but then they'll show glimpses against good teams that they should be in the conversation for not only being a playoff team, but maybe even a real playoff contender in the Eastern Conference. But then the very next moment, things completely change. And I'm going to explain a little bit of that here today. So, looking at what the Islanders have done so far this season is the definition of a Jekyll and Hyde start. Now, the record has actually changed since I made this graphic, so it's not their actual record. They're now 5-2-3 on the season with 13 points in the Metropolitan Division. And the really key thing I wanted to show you guys here was Varlamov. Semyon Varlamov has 2 shutouts already this season, which is impressive, to say the least, for the Islanders, and he's only started in 3 games. So you look at those numbers have not changed. Elias Rokin played in the last game for the Islanders. So when I look at the Islanders right now, the real interesting factor with this group right now, you look at that record, 5-2-3, 13 points, 4th in the division, and you're kind of left saying to yourself, well, we knew that their goals for wouldn't be very good, right? Their goals for, 27 goals on the season. That's 28th in the National Hockey League. And their goals against, of course, is top 5 in the league. 4th most goals, 4th least amount of goals given up this season. That's in the good category. That's a good stat for the Islanders. But the way they've played some of these games definitely gives you reason for concern. Now, we're going to take a look at their record here. And through the start of this campaign, it's been a very up and down start, to say the least, for the Islanders. Now, their first game they played Buffalo, a 3-2 win. Impressive. They scored 3 goals in that first period, or 2 goals in the first period. Buffalo ended up tying the game through the second and third period, and the Islanders eventually got a goal that was kind of debatable whether it was truly a goal or not, but the Islanders pull away. They win that game 3-2. They beat the Arizona Coyotes 1-0. That was the first shutout of the season. So the Islanders get a win there. They lose a game to the Devils that they're probably happy they got a point out of. They didn't look their best. Jack Hughes was on fire in that game, and the Islanders should be happy they got a point. That was one of those games where they scored a late goal by Bo Horvat. The Islanders tie the game. That's nice to see Horvat getting on the board. The Islanders end up taking it to overtime, and that's going to take us to another theme in a second, which, if you look at 3 of those losses being in overtime, we'll get there. Then they play the Colorado Avalanche. Terrible first period. The Islanders did not play well in the first period of this game. And somehow in the second period, the Islanders had a 2-goal lead, or a 1-goal lead in the final 2 minutes. Despite not playing their best. They really played bad the first. They played a lot better in the second. And then in the final minute, the Islanders gave up 2 goals to the Avalanche, in which the Islanders had a 1-goal lead, it seemed like, going into the second intermission. Now, all of a sudden, they're down a goal, going into the third period, and dominating that second period. But despite that, still being down by a goal, which they ended the first period with. So really frustrating in that game. They end up dropping that one to 7-4. There was a couple empty netters and things like that, so the score is a little more inflated than it actually was. But nonetheless, a game they couldn't close out. They play the Ottawa Senators, a 3-2 win in that one. Another gutsy win, not great. The Senators really not looking like a great team, so the Islanders needed to win that game. Then they headed up to Columbus, 2-0 win over the Blue Jackets. That's impressive. Nice to see there. 4-3 loss to the Red Wings. The Islanders were up 2-0 in that game in the third period. Yet they gave up 3 goals in the third period. They tie the game late, send it to overtime, and their overtime unit once again fails them. They lose it 4-3 in overtime. They go down to Washington, trying to look to get, their get right game before playing the Carolina Hurricanes. A 3-0 shutout win for Varlamov. So now that's his second shutout in the past 2 weeks, in the past week. So nice way to start off November for the Islanders. That's now their third shutout of the season through 9 games. And then the Hurricanes. 3-0 lead for the Islanders in this game. You think they know what to do. They'll shut it down. Maybe even another shutout for the goalies. Not the case. The Islanders would give up 3 straight goals. And once again, for the third time in overtime this season, in their third game of the season in overtime, take their third loss of the season in overtime. A measly point for the Islanders as they drop a game that, it's only game 10 of the season, but you look at the Red Wings game and the Hurricanes game, these are teams they are going to be fighting with in the Eastern Conference, whether that's Carolina for maybe home ice advantage in the playoffs, and we might be laughing about that in the spring if the Islanders fall off, but let's just say hypothetically, home ice advantage for the playoffs, or with Detroit, which we saw at the end of last season, in a situation with Detroit where you're fighting for a wild card spot in February and March. Those are points that got away from the Islanders. And in those games, they were up 2-0 and 3-0 respectively in those games. That is not the Islanders team that we are used to seeing. And as positive as I want to be about the 2-0 shutout over Columbus and the 3-0 shutout over the Caps and a 1-0 shutout over the Coyotes, to be frank with you, those are not very good teams. And the fact that the Islanders shut them out is nice. That's what you're supposed to do if you're a playoff team. But there's a lot of other games that really are below the standard of what Islanders fans expect from the New York Islanders. And that record looks better than they probably deserve with it all said and done. Like that Red Wings game and Hurricane games, yeah, they were able to pick up a point, which is good, but they missed out on 2 critical points. And like I said, that's 2 points you gave to the Red Wings and the Hurricanes that you didn't get. And that's one of those are 4-point games that the Islanders dropped. And even though they picked up a point, it still feels like a missed opportunity. Now, I think the best thing for the Islanders right now is to avoid the big losing streak. They already had a 3-game losing streak this season. We saw that earlier between the Devils, Sabres, and Avalanche earlier last month. But now we're in November. The Islanders play the Wild tonight. That's a big game at 7:30. Then they play a lot of road games up until the first week of December. The Islanders' schedule features Boston on the road. That's going to be a tough game for the Islanders. Then Washington at home at UBS. Then they go on the Western Canadian road trip. They play Edmonton, Vancouver, Seattle, and Calgary. Before American Thanksgiving, they play the Flyers and the Senators. The Flyers at home, the Senators on the road. They play the Flyers again at home. And then they play a couple of teams on the East Coast. They play New Jersey, Carolina, and the Florida Panthers before having a big homestand to start off December. So the Islanders' schedule right now, we should be coming into game 24 against the San Jose Sharks. Those are 2 winnable games. They play the Sharks and the Blue Jackets. They should win those games. But I think the real test is going to be after that, those 3 games on the East Coast on the road where they play Carolina, New Jersey, and Florida. Because those are 3 teams that are all at various levels in the Eastern Conference right now. If the Islanders can find a way to win 2 of those 3 games and have a winning record after the Western Canadian road trip, we're talking about the Islanders in a position where they can make a run. And it's still very early. I will sit here and tell you that firsthand. We are still not even a quarter of the way through the season. But what you have to recognize is that the importance of these types of games on the road are going to be massive for the Islanders. We saw the fellow rival, the New York Rangers down the road, they kind of had a tough start. They had a tough preseason. They had a tough start to the regular season at home. And then they went on the West Coast road trip and they just found the light. They just found that energy, and they are one of the hottest teams in the National Hockey League right now. For the Anaheim Ducks, they did the opposite. They were on the West Coast, right, being in Anaheim, going on the East Coast and dominating on their East Coast road trip, and now they're on a 6-game winning streak. So that stretch of games in Western Canada is going to be huge for the Islanders. And what's even more, maybe to be optimistic, is the teams that they're playing on the road, until that first game against the Devils, Hurricanes, and Panthers, the next couple road games after Boston are Edmonton, who is at the bottom of the NHL. Vancouver is playing okay, but that's the toughest team. Seattle and Calgary, kind of similar to Edmonton. They really haven't gotten off the ground yet. And the Ottawa Senators, right before American Thanksgiving. So the way I look at this schedule for the Islanders, especially on the road, it's fairly favorable. And they should be able to pick up a couple of wins here. These are teams that don't score a ton of goals. Other than Vancouver, yeah, Boston scores, but Edmonton, Seattle, Calgary, Ottawa, those teams don't score a lot. The Islanders have an opportunity to maybe even put up a pair of shutouts in some of those games. And I think that they need to assert their dominance again in order to get ready to build up toward those tough games against the Devils and the Hurricanes and the Panthers to a lesser extent, but they're still there. So right now, the Islanders' goaltending has been good. Their defense has been good. That's all high and mighty. The Islanders have found a way to score a goal. They've scored 3 goals in each of their past 3 games. That's pretty good, all things considered, right? So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the Islanders? Do you think that their record is where they should be? Do you think they should have more wins? Do you think they should have more losses? Let me know what you guys think down below. And like I said, I think the key thing for the Islanders is they're giving up goals at the wrong time. That's really been the biggest problem with the Islanders. And against Carolina and Detroit were really good examples of that. Now, we might look back in the spring, and Detroit and Carolina, respectively, are at the top of the Metro and the Atlantic divisions, and we're saying, well, those are 2 really good teams. But as of right now, I don't know. I think those are points that the Islanders lost that they really are going to be wishing that they had later on this season. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you again next time. Peace out, guys.